20th century. Christian missionaries have worked in the British colony of Nigeria for more than 100 years. They've established a presence alongside Islam and paganism, evangelizing, building churches, hospitals, schools, sharing the Bible, medicine, farming techniques. As the 1950s draw to a close, Nigeria's independence from the British is on the horizon, and more missionaries are coming, training pastors, developing health care, education, and agriculture, with a population turning toward self-rule. October 1st, 1960, Independence Day for Nigeria, though British influence and structures remain in the country known as Africa's giant. Part of the new challenge, promoting unity as a nation while more than 250 tribes live within its borders. Even the Nigerian national anthem recognizes the challenge afoot. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Hundreds of Christian missionaries are living in Nigeria. Bill and Audrey Cooley are Southern Baptist. Their assignment takes them to Jos, a town on a plateau in the country's northern region.
I was principal of Baptist High School in Jos. In fact, was sent to Jos to found the high school and get it going.
I was librarian. I taught classes, and I kept the books. So I was pretty busy with the work there at the schools.
Bob and Joanne Parham are also Southern Baptist. They live only a few miles from the Coolies. Bob works with local pastors, and Joanne takes care of administrative and domestic chores.
Get the children off to school. I would have a lot of guests, so there was catering that had to be done. My work throughout the years would have been mostly with the women's organizations and children's organizations. I kept the books and Bob spent the money, which was not always easy to keep together.
Jos is a base of significant missionary activity, with hospitals, planes, and a mission school. Hillcrest, a joint effort of the many denominations to board and school MKs, missionary kids. Ruth Key, Church of the Brethren, Hillcrest Senior, yearbook editor. She also works in the Hillcrest office, where she gets to know a Nigerian employee, Hyacinth Adibemba, a member of the Igbo tribe.
He had this incredible faith that every now and again he'd talk about how the Lord had done this for him on such and such a time. He also was very joyful, laugh easily, extremely kind.
The principal of Hillcrest is Paul Weaver, Church of the Brethren. Phyllis Wagner, Assemblies of God, teaches 7th grade. Dean Peterson, Sudan United Mission, teaches social studies. Dozens more missionaries live in Jos, with more work and influence radiating out from there. Missionaries come alongside as Nigeria seeks stability and improvement. With 50 million people, it's Africa's most populous country, but within, there are significant differences.
We had the Igbo in the east, the Yoruba in the west, and in the north, the Fulani and the Hausa. So those are the 4 major ones, but lots of people groups, lots of tribal groups in the country.
There's a great tribal force at work. As Westerners came in, and as European powers particularly were interested now in the natural resources they could get, they began to divide up the African continent. They paid no attention to the boundaries of those ethnic groups which might have been traditional boundaries for millennia. So you have all kinds of crisscross borders, mixing and matching people who didn't mix or match. So take a setting like in Nigeria.
Christianity came in, and Christianity brought education.
You will see that by the end of the colonial period, the South had become educationally advanced in the Western ways.
In the North was predominantly Islam, predominantly House of Fulani.
In the North, people are so spread out. More nomadic Fulani people wander with their herds. They don't settle in any one place. Their children don't get an education.
The Hausa tended to be more rural. They tended to be Muslim. The Hausa were not necessarily less intelligent, but they had less opportunity.
With independence, this caused a lot of problems.
And there is that imaginary border there between the North and in essence all of the South that divided this country right from the beginning.
When independence was coming and the Europeans had to go, somebody had to mind the house. Somebody had to run the show. And those who had the education and others had to be used to run the show.
The Southerners had been exposed to Western education from missionaries and from trade along the coast.
With the Igbos, education was a defining characteristic. The school system in the East was much more advanced, and they wanted to get more education.
We have to realize the Igbos were to the south, and education came to them first.
Sort of dominated the civil service.
Working the post office and jobs that required some education.
All the big jobs and all the important jobs, all the government jobs were Igbo, and that caused a lot of friction.
So they were becoming leading forces, so to speak, in a territory which was not really theirs.
That was a threat to the Houses, and it wasn't their Christianity. Christianity was the mode by which they became educated in the schools, but it was what they did with that education and their own characteristics that angered the Houses and turned the Houses against them. It was not the fact that they were Christian. There was that religious, aspect of it. We can't say that there was none of that, but in essence, the real tipping point was tribalism and how the Igbos treated some of the houses up north.
Because they were, in some cases, fairly arrogant. They're saying, in effect, to the northern people, we're urban, you are, we look at all of the positions that we have. We're in places of responsibility. We make decisions.
Not only were the Igbos in the Houses' homeland living the good life when the Houses were still, 10, 15, 20 years behind them, but it was getting rubbed into their noses.
So the paradox arose that the Igbo people developed northern Nigeria. And because the Igbo people have shown this kind of progress and achievement, their fellow countrymen and women began to be suspicious of them.
These suspicions run even to Jos, a melting pot of sorts. The coolie's gardener, Garba, is Muslim, Hausa, Northerner. He does not particularly care for the Eastern Igbos being in Jos, but the city is a draw for nationals and expatriates alike.
We were living in sort of a favored part of the country. Things went well there. Jos has an ideal climate almost. This is a place where people went for their vacations. They went there to get away from things, not to get into things.
You had a little cooler weather. You could grow more things in your garden.
There was a main street through the town, beautiful street lined with flamboyants, and had the shops in it that expatriates used most of all.
And on the outskirts, Jos, the Baptist High School, the boarding school begun by the coolies, where Nigerian boys of various tribes live and study, where they are reminded each day of a psalm, a hope, a vision.
Psalm 33:1.
Kíyèsí, ó ti dára, ó sì ti dùn fún àwọn ọmọ ará láti máa jùmọ̀ gbé ní ìrẹ́pọ̀.
Behold how good and pleasant it is when brethren live together in unity. We knew that we were going to have students from many tribal backgrounds. And in fact, at one time we calculated we had students from more than 30 tribal backgrounds there. you that if we did not,
Anyway, it took Igbos, it took Hausa, it took Yoruba.
But unity is fragile, and Nigerian unity will be cracked by a coup. January 15th, 1966. The year begins with a coup as military officers topple Nigeria's leadership. Most of the officers behind the coup are Igbo. Those killed are not. Regional and ethnic lines bubble up, with missionaries in their midst. Ruth Derry, a Southern Baptist doctor, writes home about the cloak and dagger games afoot after the coup. The coup is viewed by many northern Nigerians as an Igbo plot, an attempt to control the country. Mark Thompson is a Lutheran at the Theological College of Northern Nigeria near Jos. He and his wife Mary Lou write back to their board of foreign missions that the Igbos are now head of the army and promise freedom from political tyranny and tribalism. A big order for anyone. The Thompsons write that they pray daily for peace for everyone, to look to God for help in these difficult days ahead. Sunday, May 29th. Southern Baptist missionary Bob Parham is taking other missionaries from Jos to Kano for a flight out of the country. Riding shotgun, Brethren missionary Buzz Bowers. They never make it to Kano. En route, Parham has to stop his Peugeot 404.
As we approached Zaria, town before we would get to Kano, we saw smoke, we saw fires, and we realized we were driving into a riot of some sort. And I was told not to use my camera too prominently, that might attract attention to us.
The car in front of them was turned over and the people were killed. They came to the car that Bob and the others were in and started getting it and threatening. And somehow Bob persuaded them not to turn their car over, and they proceeded to the one behind it.
There was a Baptist compound there at Zaria that we knew we better head for safety. We ended up at the Baptist mission. We were kind of concerned, they were concerned there too about some of their people who were out in villages.
Parham knows fellow Southern Baptist Art Campere is preaching nearby and is likely unaware of the immediate trouble. Parham heads for a village church in Kwangila, where he updates the congregation and fetches Campere.
And we decided we would not continue on to Kano with our passengers, but transfer them to a vehicle from the mission there.
James Yarbrough said, I will take these three on to Kano, you all go back to Jos.
That violent episode is one of several in the north targeting Igbos for abuse, mutilation, or killing. Igbo homes and businesses are looted, while some Igbos try to evacuate via train. A June 2nd memo from Church of the Brethren missionary Roger Ingold reveals the magnitude of the problem. It appears that the press has been playing down the extent and severity of the demonstrations, rioting, and damage done. The report is that many hotels and buildings owned by Igbos have been destroyed, and it seems that there has been considerably more loss of life than has been reported. Ingold ends the memo. I note a few examples of some additional strain and tension on some of the missionaries working here. Catholic leaders are on edge. Bill Cooley writes back to his parents in the States. His mother, Elva, shares some of his letter with Southern Baptist executives. Bill assured us that they and Jos had been in no danger, although it had been rumored there would be trouble there. He did not want us to worry. Yet we could detect a note of concern and uneasiness in his letter. He stated that he did not know how much to tell. Many Igbos leave the north for their tribal homeland in Nigeria's eastern region, but not all. Bill Cooley relays in his letter home that several of their students and teachers at the Baptist High School are from the east. The possibility of their departure was brought up. Elva Cooley writes, "They and all others wish to stay and stick it out together, whatever might come." Bill and Audrey were touched by the demonstration of mature faith. It is a faith that will soon be tested. Roger Ingold shares with his mission headquarters back in the States. "We are not free from some danger. There is an element of danger in the world in which we live. I'm reminded that there was in the world in which Christians have already fled the northern region. But more Igbos remain, despite rumors of more violence."
The place where most of the conversations about things like that took place was the faculty room at Hillcrest School. Here you had teachers from all of the different mission entities, and the missionaries were all over the country. They would send word back to their people, their house parents at the hostels, and the hostels would tell the teachers, and from the Baptists to the Assemblies of God to the Mennonites to the Church of the Brethren to the Lutherans.
You became a little more apprehensive as each day went by, and trying to determine, is this rumor my rumor or headed for me? There was no way we could barricade a big campus sitting out in the rural open. There was just not anything we could do, so we just tried to keep life moving along.
We had heard rumors of trouble coming to Jos. I went one Sunday morning to one of our country churches. We call them bush churches. That Sunday morning, an Igbo recited the 91st Psalm.
"You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you."
He said it with such depth of meaning that said to me, these people are well aware they are facing a great trouble.
Bob and Joanne Parham write from the Baptist Mission in Jos that uncertainty and tension have filled the atmosphere for months now. They pray that Nigeria's leaders will have divine guidance as they work to solve the country's problems. At the Baptist High School in Jos, Bill and Audrey Cooley one day receive a memorable visit. The older brother of one of their students, an Igbo named Jonathan Ikariawu, is concerned.
Jonathan's brother came from Bukaru to talk about Jonathan's future, and more specifically, with it appearing that some trouble was certain that would involve Eastern peoples, which they were, what would be best to do for Jonathan. Whether to take him back to Bukaru and try to keep him safely with the family there, or whether to leave him at the school. I told the brother that the choice was theirs, the family's. If they wanted to take him home, that was certainly their prerogative. Or if they wanted to leave him at school, we would do the best we could for him.
The family makes a crucial decision. Jonathan will stay at the school. Harvey and Thelma Kiekover are Christian Reformed Church missionaries. They live a couple of 100 miles south of Jos, in McCurdy, in the northern region. September 21st, morning.
We were expecting and had Hausa Malam come to help us learn Hausa. And he came and said, terrible things are happening in the town. And then he described a little bit of what was happening in terms of killing of Igbos.